What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Properties and Pour Overs podcast. My name is Adam Colburn, and today I have a very special guest, my buddy Patrick Charles. What's going on, Pat?
What's going on, Adam? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks so much for taking the time to come and chat with me.
Yeah, I'm sorry
Can
about
you,
this.
yeah, absolutely. Can you, just to get started, kind of introduce yourself? Where are you located in the country, and what does your business look like currently?
Okay, so I'm actually in Newark, New Jersey, and I got a couple of different things going on. I'm a real estate investor. I'm actually a traveling locums physician,
Hmm.
and yeah, and trying to like kind of get into the buying business space, but yeah,
I love it. That's awesome, man. Got a lot of plates
yeah,
spinning. Sounds
yeah.
sounds like we're cut from the same cloth, right? We're always
Yeah.
just that entrepreneur bug. So, um, how long have you been in the real estate space?
So I've been in the real estate space for surprisingly just a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, so my W-2, I used to work for like a local hospital here, hospital employee and everything else. And
Mm-hmm.
as COVID kind of like came and went, it kind of like put things in perspective for me a little bit, as
Sure.
far as like going into business for myself and how I could be able to like transition out from like the rat race and
Yeah.
kind of like control my own time a little bit. So, in order to do that, like anybody else, you kind of have to like go into business for yourself and have some other streams of income. So,
Yeah.
about late 2021 to early 2022 is when I was like, you know what, this I just pulled the trigger, bought my first investment property, started doing, traveling, becoming an independent contractor, and kind of like setting my own schedule,
Cool.
create contracts with hospitals on my own. So kind of like moving and shaking around a little
Mm-hmm.
bit that way. And it kind of bought some of my time back, which is
Yeah.
a commodity that, is irreplaceable and, probably the most priceless thing that we all have, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Cool, man. So, like, I don't think we touched on this yet, but like in the real estate investing space, like what's your main strategy? Are you doing buy and holds? Are you flipping houses? Are you wholesaling? Like what's your main focus in the real estate
So,
space?
so initially, I was just, buy a traditional buy and hold investor, kind of
Yeah.
turnkey. That's what I kind of entered the space with, and once I, joined Subto, like maybe a year after, like in like early 2023, between 2023. I started understanding, there's a lot other different avenues, and that's where kind of like my mind was blown. Like there's
Yeah.
wholesaling, there's buy and sell, and you could even go into lending, and so like I kind of boiled on my niche a little bit, to mostly buy and hold. So we could talk about that a little bit. So, provide transitional housing now in Newark for majority of former inmates, but we also do some retired veterans, out of the shelters here. So I'm super excited about, be able to give back from that regard.
Yeah.
Uh, but my also dipping my toes. I'm not like you or other fix and flippers, but I'm kind of dipping my toes right now into some fix and flips. So I'm partnering up
Okay.
with
Nice. Yeah.
with a fix and flipper in Philly. So
Okay.
so kind of like I'm the sponsoring some of his deals, getting my reps in, because that's all it
Yeah.
is. It's about the reps, so you can be
For
able to,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Get 1% better every day. Absolutely. Every deal
yeah.
you get kind of refine that process. And so that's awesome, man. So, so mainly buy and hold, getting into the flips. It's really cool. Um, I mean, I know we kind of touched on it briefly, like how you came into this space, but obviously from coming from like a medical background into this venture, right? Totally new. Like, how was that transition for you? Did you just kind of stumble and fumble your way through it and just kind of keep failing forward? Did you have a mentor? Because like I know for me, like I was just spinning my wheels for months on end trying to get this stuff done. Like I was taking the action, but I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And like, what did that journey look like from you? From like obviously all the expertise that you have to have and all the schooling and stuff to go through to be in the medical space to now learn this completely different entrepreneurial venture? Like how did those early days go for you?
Well, I tell people all the time that I meet, like analysis process is a real thing.
For sure.
I think I bought every single book from from I'm blanking out right now. Sorry. I bought every single book from uh oh, am I blanking out right now?
Is it
Oh,
Kiyosaki?
not Kiyosaki. It's the community, not Subto, the
Bigger pockets?
bigger pockets. Oh my gosh, it's late. I'm sorry.
You're all
I need
good,
another sip of
bro.
this energy drink here.
There
But
you go.
yeah, so I bought every single book. Excuse me. I bought every single book from Bigger Pockets,
Yeah, yeah,
and I felt like I knew a lot, like, and but I didn't know how to be able to move on that information,
yeah,
it wasn't until like I just um went ahead, got a realtor to kind of like help me transition with all the paperwork aspect, because the books kind of refer, about like, contracts and things of that nature,
yeah,
how to, there's a title company, escrow, but I had a real seasoned realtor that kind of like walked me through that process. But what really catapulted me into like getting comfortable doing it on my own was the Subto community, like,
yeah,
partner, like talking to folks that are doing deals in Subto. Um, and it got to a point where, a realtor is not a must have. It's is an icing on a cake. You can kind of do deals with and without them, you
yeah,
know. But the biggest thing for me is having like that battle buddy, somebody like that you can be able to call on. Like, hey, what about this? How are you doing this? What should I do next? And I just went ahead and just dove deep, because it was enough time. I had enough time sitting on the sideline, just watching everybody play. I
yeah.
just had to just jump into the game.
Right.
Even though I wasn't, I was shooting air balls, and but like
Yeah.
at least I had somebody to kind of like run back to, to the side bench, to the bench, and like, hey, what am I doing wrong? And they coach me, and I go back out there. That's the best
Yeah.
way to. That's
A
the best
hundred
way to do
percent.
it.
No, dude, I love it. I love it. Like having that sounding board with somebody that's kind of running alongside you or is just slightly in front of you, right? That can kind of show you the ropes. Um, I think is the cheat code, right? And for me, if I could change anything, I don't regret not doing that, right? Just kind of figuring it out on my own because I had to build up that hustle muscle, right? Like be real resilient and continue to just be tenacious until I could get the stuff done, which I think is necessary because a lot of people that come in this space and like they see the Instagram reels of people closing deals in 3 phone calls and they made 50 grand. Like, yeah, that can
Yeah.
happen, but it's not real, right? And so like, but for me, like it took me 7, 8 months to close my first deal. I could have shortened that time frame in half or shorter if I was just attached to somebody who knew just a little bit more than me, right? And so like I don't know if it was so much pride or if it was just like I don't know, like feeling unworthy. How can I bring value to this other person? Because I'm so new, which is it's kind of ironic because now I do a lot of that, like helping other people that were in that position. Um, but like that's the only thing that I wish I did sooner was just come alongside somebody. And so like joining a mentorship like Sub2, um, which is the best community in the world. Um, that just you're just gonna elevate your skill set that much faster and have people to kind of bounce ideas off of and know like yes do this no don't do this because I've already taken the beating right you don't have to go and figure it out for yourself so I mean I think that is the cheat code for sure finding somebody that you can rely on and have like you said a battle buddy that's huge.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I recommend that to anybody in any industry. It doesn't even. It's not only in real estate. It's almost in any
Definitely.
industry.
Yeah,
If you have somebody just to go through the trenches with you, oh my, like, and you got to feed off each other. What you may not know, they may know, and vice versa. So
yeah. Well, and I think too, like even if it's just you're both brand new together, I mean this is how I found my business partner. We both got started at the same time. It's like if you're going into the gym, you're always going to work out way harder if you're there with somebody else than if it's just you, right? You're like, ah, that
100%.
set was chill, like I'm good.
I
But
love
like if
it.
somebody else is pushing you, like, nah, bro, you got it, you got it, you got to keep going. It's gonna be that much more impactful for you, right? So like just
Sure.
collaborating with other people is the name of the game if you want to grow and scale and be successful in this industry. And like you said, in any industry,
Yeah.
it's huge. So okay, that's awesome. So I mean, kind of going back, just making the switch, right? Like, do you think that you've always been an entrepreneur, or was this a skill set that you learned? Like, did you have any previous like inklings, maybe when you were in like high school or college, selling stuff or flipping stuff on the side? Or like, do you think that was a learned trait or just something that was like inside you laying dormant when you were in the medical field and you're like, I got to flip this switch and get after it?
It's so funny that you asked that question. That's a good question. I think with just normal schooling and like just progressing through life, you know, they kind of like the entrepreneur spirit has to be within you because you're kind of programmed to kind of like stick by the rules and like walk in the straight path and which is great,
Yeah,
but that kind of conforms you to the everyday person,
right.
and how they move, so you kind of have to like break free of that. I don't know if you watch movies, but like there's a movie that I watched, a whole series of, and they talk about like, folks are either one group, and it could be the oh my God, what's it called? Uh, it could you can have folks who are like just intelligent, folks who are like super like athletic, and there's folks that are very like comforting. Like it's almost like they all have their own specific personality that are amongst each other, but
Yeah,
there's other folks that are like outside of like divergent, like it's called divergent, outside of
yeah,
that space of like those little pockets. And you
yeah,
know it only takes a trigger for you to kind of like diverge out of that mindset, you know out of that like specific box that you were put in when you were like growing up.
yeah,
So that was kind of that's kind of happened to me. For whatever reason, there was a switch that just turned on, and I was like, and I couldn't see myself being in that place any longer.
yeah.
I didn't really have an exit a true like cushion as an exit strategy. I just like, you know what? Listen, guys, I'm gonna give my 90-day notice now. I'm just gonna just jump into this space. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if I'm gonna fail. I don't know if I'm gonna lose all my money in one day. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go into it.
yeah,
Um and thankfully I did, because I would have still been there going through the motions, and there's nothing wrong about 9 to 5, because I still have, I still work in addition to what I'm doing right now, and that gives me the cushion to make a little bit more riskier moves than other folks.
sure.
Um, but having the mindset of there's other avenues that you could go into that can elevate not only your position but your whole family's position
Yeah,
if you decide to take that step,
yeah,
and that's by far the best decision I ever made.
yeah,
Not allowing myself to stay, with the daily 9 to 5 and just stay in that rut. You
for
know,
sure. No, dude, I love
um,
it. I think it's definitely like a mindset shift that has to happen. And it's more like I feel like the visual of like the blinders coming off, right? Like we've only been able to see it's like when the horse is running, they have the blinders on the side of their head so they're not distracted. But on the flip side of that, like, yeah, they want that because they want you to run in a straight line. But if you take them off and now you can see all these other things, these are possibilities that you didn't know that existed, you're like, holy crap, Like I can do all of these things. What are you talking about? Like it's mind blowing and it's like right under your nose. Like your entire life growing up, going through education systems into various jobs and yeah, like once you finally kind of get that taste, it's like addicting, right? Like now I am the one that can determine if I'm going to work today or not. If I just want to sit on the
Right.
couch and watch cartoons with my kids, I'm going to do that. Like
Yeah.
I control my destiny, not some other nameless person. And then on the flip side, I'm not just some name on a spreadsheet that's replaceable at the drop of a hat, right? And so it's so huge, man. So huge. Um that's awesome. So, um, I know we talked briefly on this co-living strategy, and I think yours is
Oh
really
yeah.
interesting because when we met up in Boston and you were telling me about your strategy, I had never heard anybody doing this specific model of co-living. And so, can you kind of explain like what that looks like with these former inmates transitioning out of the prison system?
So yeah. So what me and my partner is doing right now, we're providing like affordable housing, transitional housing
Yeah.
for former inmates. And that's where our niche is going to gonna be focused on within the next couple of years. So we have a property right now that we rent by the bed.
Hmm.
And the city has funding, to get keep these individuals out of the street. So they have a voucher program, similar to like Section 8.
Okay.
And as long as you pass inspection, similar to like, the Section 8 process,
Hmm.
you're able to, provide housing for them. And these are folks who are, um, have completed their term in the penitentiary, and they already completed their halfway housing, obligations, and are trying to transition out of that system,
Yeah.
and they need a place to stay. The city and the municipalities, provide housing vouchers for them, but it's only for a short period of time.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
these programs, they're also programs, for folks who are they're trying to remove from the shelters as well, and get them into like permanent housing, at
Hmm.
least out of the system, have them get a job in, so they can afford their own housing through Section 8 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and so we provide that intermediary housing for them.
Okay.
Not Section 8, but it's not the shelter as well.
Yeah.
It's
This
not
in
halfway
between.
houses.
Yeah.
Right, and the vouchers are only like for a short period of time. They expect for the folks to start working on getting employment, getting the resume, and that's where we come in. So we market ourselves to be a provider that can not only provide clean livable space for them, but also provide a service,
Yeah.
provide value to for them. So we're super stoked about like the potential, because we kind of got into the space specifically dealing with the shelters, and then when they had like they had a couple of displaced veterans in there, but some inmates that were there, former inmates that were there, that they were housing, and it was like, what, this is a niche that we will love to like focus on, because they're usually overlooked, to
Yeah.
and
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, and they're hard time to get a place, some type of employment. So if they could be a contributing member to society,
Yeah.
and we can help facilitate that, be a catalyst for them to be, to have their own trade, own their own business, and then contribute back into the community that they were may have been on the other side of the law in. That
Right.
would be that would be amazing transformation.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. I love it. Well, and it's like it makes so much sense, but it's like, at least me personally, I never even thought to do something like that. So, like, what sparked the idea for you guys to go after that? Did you know somebody else, like your business partner, was already doing these types of homes and you kind of attached yourself to that and like, dude, I want to jump in on this? Or you just saw
So
the need and is like, is there a way that we can get in here? Like, what? Elaborate on that. How'd you get started?
it's funny that you mentioned that. it was actually a pastor, because well, my business partner, he's a minister, but there was a
Okay.
pastor of another church who had these inmates and these and these folks that were like coming transition out of the shelter, and they, he was holding them in the, his like church, and his other, he had like his other folks that were in the church kind of house them temporarily and everything else. So
Yeah.
he needed like a set place, and I think they may have met my business partner in that past may have met through some type of like a meetup or a conference, a religious conference or whatever it is.
Sure. Yeah.
And he explained the need and the opportunity there, and I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it. You know, so we both felt like we both kind of fell into it, like, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. And then um I have my duplex in Newark that at the time was vacant, so it was like a perfect scenario. So we were able to like kind of move them all in
Wow.
all at one time, and it was a
That's
little
awesome.
worrying, because we were trying to figure, okay, so how we're going to do this, how we're going to make sure like they coexist together, harmoniously,
Yeah.
you know, make sure that house rules, you kind of have to be like a den mother type of thing. So house
Sure.
rules are being met,
Hmm.
no drugs, this, that, and the third, kind of have to put the hammer down, especially, if they don't follow the rules, you gotta kick them out. And they know this.
Yeah.
I'm not a small guy, neither is my business partner. So like,
Yeah.
they're not going toe to toe with us, if
Sure.
even though it's Jersey, and Jersey got one of the worst, but not as bad as other states, but one of the worst nonetheless.
Sure. Yeah.
But so not we haven't like got into any real
Altercations.
altercations
Yeah.
with anyone just yet. But
That's good.
you know we kind of like start the whole relationship like, hey, you give me respect, I'll give you respect. We're trying to do the same thing. We're just trying to make sure like we keep ends met, and and move on with our lives type of thing.
Yeah,
So they
totally.
get it. They get
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, and I mean you're providing a service to them too, right? And so um I got a couple quick questions on this space and then we can kind of move on to some other stuff. But so I know you said that the vouchers are for a short amount of time. Like what does that look like? Is that like 3 months, 6 months, anything less than 12 months? And then they're expected to like get some sort of employment so that they can afford to move into like a Section 8 rental or something along those lines?
Correct. So it's about 6 months. There's a year. It really depends on which area of the city office is actually funding it, because it could come from the housing authority, it could come from the
Gotcha.
HUD, it comes from different places.
Yeah,
Um, Depends how they got into the shelter, or they got into the circumstance they're in.
sure.
Um, yeah, so as long as they have quarterly, or no, excuse me, bi-monthly like meetings that they have to like kind of show, hey, what's your progress type of thing.
Gotcha.
So we kind of take the weight off of those offices, like, hey, we're gonna be working with them. You still have a quarter me, but at least they're gonna be more productive in those quarterly meetings dealing with us.
Yeah,
'Cause
totally. You're gonna kind of push them along and make sure that they're hitting those key indicators that they need to move through the process. I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And a little bit in Boston, we talk about like a Mount Everest a lot,
Yeah,
and as we like developing our system, me and my business partner, he's a general contractor as well. So as we develop our system, he's loving the whole 5 year vision. So
sure.
he's going out, he's getting his education licensing for a tradesman. So he's going to be working with those who are interested,
Yeah,
bringing them on the job with them, and get them partnered up with the local union so they could get their hours in and eventually get their masters in electrician, masters in plumbing,
that's
and then
amazing.
and once
Wow.
once they complete that process, we'll work with folks who in Subto to like eventually buy a business at the end of it. So they'll be a business owner, at the 5 year mark. I'm hoping sooner than that, but
Yeah.
that's the vision.
Dude,
Be a
that's
business owner,
incredible. Yeah.
and
Well, and
and
it's
then
like to get them to, you're basically letting them go to trade school for free, right? On the job training, which is what everybody needs, especially in the trades. Like it's all you can learn. It's just like what we were talking about when you're getting into real estate. You can know all the theory, but until you actually go and hit the pavement and and know how to do it, it's just a whole different ball game. And so like specifically with that, right? Like plumbing, electrical, framing, that kind of stuff. Like you can't learn it in a seminar. You got to be out
Yep.
there and you got to go and do it. And so by having a master of their craft to train you up and then get you to the point where now you have the certification to go out and do other jobs and stuff like that, that's incredible. That's a
Yeah.
huge impact. Dude, I love that. That's super cool.
Yeah, so that's our Mount Everest right now. Getting that structured, getting our program recognized by the unions, and so we can literally be a proctor for the licensing, so they could sit for the license. So
Yeah.
that's where we working on. That's our 5 year, and we're trying to like focus, where we are right now, since we have the relationships here in Newark. But eventually, once we protocolize this, get some SOPs going, and just rinse and repeat in any city across
Yeah.
the country. So,
That's so good, dude. That's so
so it's
good.
gonna
It's
be
such a needed space, right? Like a service to provide for these folks because it's like, yeah, they might have done whatever they did, right? They made a mistake, but now they've served their time. They're ready to come back into society, and if you can help give them that hand up to become productive members of society, like that's so cool, man. I really love that. Um
Yeah,
awesome.
and I think that's where like my heart is starting to draw into, like this right here. Not to
Yeah.
say like what I'm doing is not impactful. It definitely is, but I feel like folks who are in the inner city, that have the same complexion as me, that that they say, hey, there's a better life outside of what I'm used to, how I got into this space in the first place. You
Yeah.
know, and now I could own my own business. Now I could be able to have my own place. I could be able to have my own family,
Yeah.
because I have the capability to provide for them, and I could be able to pay taxes and invest in the community.
Yeah. It's incredible. I
That's
mean,
empowering.
you're changing entire family trees
Yeah.
this way, right? Because I mean, I don't know what the statistic is specifically, but like typically folks that are incarcerated, like that kind of travels in their family lineage, right? Like you fall into those wrong crowds, you're learning from your father, or maybe your father's not present. You jump into these rough situations, and that cycle just kind of continues and continues. So if you can break that cycle and kind of get out of that generational curse that they were stuck in, and now
Yes.
move them on to bigger and better things, like dude, that's so impactful. It just gets me pumped up talking about it. That's super
Yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm so excited. So what's the next 6 years going to be like? So right. So is you gonna we're gonna definitely have to like do like a catch up, when these,
Absolutely.
and to kind of
Yeah.
like see where we, how everything developed. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, man, I love that. I love the vision behind that and kind of giving all these people a chance to get back on their feet and even more so like turn them into business owners. Like that's incredible. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, really cool. And so obviously everybody that I talk to and have come across in this space knows that real estate does not come without its challenges. And so I'm sure that there's been some bumps along the way for you on your journey, even though it's only been a few years. Can you kind of share a story about an obstacle you had to overcome? Maybe it was early on, maybe it was recent, um, on something that was just a challenge that you had to overcome, and kind of what did you do to overcome that?
You know, I almost learned like um everything I know about real estate. Well, not everything, but majority of stuff I learned about real estate, as far as dealing with contractors, from my first property. My
Yeah,
first property, it wasn't a move-in ready type of property. It was had some dated bathrooms, some dated kitchen,
sure.
and I had something in my head like, oh, I want the most high-end tenant, and so I'm going to put all the nice
Yeah.
finishes, and I don't know what possessed me to even like think that right. Like, as a classic newbie real estate
Yeah.
investor, like
Overbuild,
instinct.
overbuild, overbuild.
Yeah,
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 totally.
classic. So like, meeting a couple of contractors going in, and I did that. So I was trying to check off some stuff that I learned in Bigger Pockets books, and but I think the contractors, in retrospect, smelled the newbie on me right away, and
Yeah.
there's this one contractor, I'm not gonna say his name, but he started working on one of the units, and he started, like, ripping the bathrooms out and everything else. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot. And that there was like the back stairwell that had some water damage because it needed a new roof as well. So it had some water damage. The back stairwell, so all that's the walls and everything had to be pulled down, and then they had to put another sheetrock in, kind
Right.
of like fix it up and everything else, and the reinforce the steps, the wooden in the steps, because that was also a little rotted as well.
Hmm.
So not knowing what's what, he's like, oh yeah, I need 75% up front,
Oh,
and then and then another 10% here, and then we finalize with another 15%, and not knowing what I didn't know, I was like, oh yeah, sure, here's a check. At that time, I was funding everything myself. I had my little savings, and
yeah.
I didn't know about PMLs at that time, Gators, and I didn't know nothing about that.
Right.
Um, so like 75% in, I was like, oh yeah, we need some more money. At that time, I'm like, I had another colleague of mine, she does a little bit interior design,
Okay.
so but she done more flips than I. I had zero. She had like a few.
Sure.
And she was looking at the scope of work, and we can go into what that is. But she was looking at the scope of work, and she was like, he charged you what for the bathroom? No, get out of town. And he charged you. It got to a point where we're heading towards $100,000 mark, and we're not even like more than 75% done
Oh no.
of a what I thought was a light type of like reno,
Yeah.
like just redo the bathrooms and the kitchens and just touch up some stuff, and make it look presentable.
Yeah.
It come to find out, when you Google that person, there's so many like legal cases on him as far as
Oh,
him stealing money.
yeah.
And he like overcharged other folks. And it's not, it looks like, I went really deep in his financials, and it looks like he owes a lot. Owes a lot of folks some cash. So I think he's trying to steal from Peter to pay Paul type of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, Come to find out, I had to fire him. I just ate that 70K that I
Mm.
dropped, 80K that I dropped, and then I had to get another contractor.
Right.
Um, he actually was my saving grace. Um, and I found him through that same person, that designer.
Yeah.
He did a lot of his work, and he kind of does everything off the books, because of his immigration status and everything. But
Sure.
he knows his stuff backwards and forwards, and for the fraction, he kind of felt bad for me, you
Yeah.
know. It,
Sure.
the sympathy, I guess, the sympathy actual card worked. I didn't play the sympathy card per
Right.
se, but
Yeah.
somebody else kind of
He
like,
could
hey,
see
help
he
him.
could see the damage that had already been done to you. He's like, man, I gotta take care of this guy.
Yeah. So he ended up like, going back over and like what wasn't done, and then end up finishing the other unit, so I total like 130, because I had, additional like 50, 60 that I had at least he did that with for the re completing the first unit and the second unit, which was, I thought that was a steal for me.
Yeah, totally. Well, when you're spending double that on one unit and it's not
Yeah,
done, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
For
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So I learned a lot about, what a general contractor is, subcontractors, how to vet your contractors,
Yeah.
researching your contractors. I learned like, where you can find them, and the fact that all these are insured, so and they have to like you could be able to like, uh report their ID numbers to the organizations, to like kind of like put a word out like, hey, this person, is not doing the right thing, so
Yeah.
these are things that you could do to kind of safeguard yourself.
Hmm.
And a little tip, you know, if you have the capabilities, don't do what I did, clean out your savings account. What you should do, get your Amex, the platinum Amex, the best, get that has a substantial enough credit limit where you can have them invoice you. You pay them through the Amex, and if they don't do the job, you can always have Amex refunding money, because that's part
Mm.
of the return policies that they have.
Wow, I did not know that. That's really
So,
interesting.
so what I would recommend that moving forward, because that's what I do now. You
Sure.
know, and yes, they're gonna be the subcontractors, the ones that's not documented, that's gonna need cash. But like,
Mhm.
I use those for handyman stuff. I use
Yeah.
those little lipstick if the tenant comes out, moves out, or I have the victim, and then the walls and everything else, some little touch up paint, you
Yeah.
know, things of that nature. I'll pay the cash, it's fine. But
Sure.
if we're talking about new bathrooms, new kitchens, new floorings, and everything else, I have them invoice me.
Yeah.
I pay through credit. Nothing
Yeah.
nothing gets Zelled. If they can't do it, then I'll just move on to the
Sure.
next
Find another
contract
person to do it. Yeah.
that's licensed,
Yeah.
and I'll be able to
Absolutely.
find them in the system.
Yeah. No, that I love that. We've definitely leveraged credit cards in the past, and we've used software like Plastique, and there's another one that's escaping me where they'll basically send it as an ACH payment to their checking
Mhm.
account. But I never thought about if they like stiffed me on a job or something that I could just dispute that transaction. And I don't, do you know if that's Amex specific or can you do that with other credit cards?
You know what? I haven't done it with any other credit cards. Amex has like the best like return policies,
Yeah.
and like like insurance policies. You could like get your
Hmm.
phone, like if you get your phone stolen, whatever it is, and if you bought it through your Amex, you can get it like
Yeah.
replaced.
Yeah.
Things like they should. Amex has so many different things. I swear by it.
Sure.
I don't want to tell you how many Amexes, different type of Amexes I have. That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll flex on that
uh,
later.
but yeah, so I would recommend any of those like large transactions to do it that way.
Yeah.
So just to safeguard you, add extra layer of insurance,
Yeah.
especially if you don't know that person.
Totally. That's super smart. And then also never pay, never pay more than 50% up front.
Yes, that's
Never,
that's another
never, never, never,
that's
never,
another
never.
one.
That's why for me personally, we buy all of our materials, right? So I'm buying the materials.
Yep,
All I'm paying for is their labor, their skill,
yep, yep,
right? And I pay on a draw system just like a hard money lender would draw on me for paying them and then getting reimbursed. I want to see, okay, here's my line item. You guys are doing drywall this week. I'm going to show up on Friday. Drywall's completed. Great. Here's your check. Or
yep,
here's my Amex payment,
yep,
right? And then, okay, now you did windows, getting paid for that. I'm not paying you in big chunks because I've gotten taken for a ride a couple times where guys are billing me hourly and a task that should take an hour and a half has
yeah,
taken 8 hours and they're charging me 30 bucks an hour for some master tradesman when it's like, this is a trash out, guys. Like,
yeah, right,
what are you talking about? And
yeah.
so like they'll still chase you. And I've done like more than a handful of flips at this point, but it's like, yeah, I mean they can still get you if you're not like on top of your game. And so that's definitely something that we're doing. And I hear that one specifically, like the contractors want a ton up front. Luckily, your guy at least came and did some of the work. I've heard so many times where they get
Yeah,
50% or more and they just
and then,
dip. They're out of town, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, you have to go through the whole process again. It's horrible.
yeah,
But
yeah. At least I
yeah.
count my blessings on that regard. Yeah, he could have
For
just,
sure.
he could have
Well,
just
and
skipped
I
town.
mean, and all for it, you're better for it, right? Like it was a learning lesson. Yeah, it hurts for sure to spend that kind of money to learn the lesson, but you're never gonna do it again. And now
Oh,
you're gonna be better and better and more refined as you get further along in your skill and your portfolio up. So that's awesome.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
100%. And I look at it as tuition, like, and
Totally.
I don't want it to deter anyone from like jumping in, jump in, make, fall, fail forward is, is that's what
Yeah.
they say,
Totally.
like, you don't have to like make a $75,000 mistake like myself,
Yes.
you know, 5,000 probably too much, but like at least go get in there,
Yeah.
and if you have the battle buddy like we just mentioned,
Yeah.
you guys put your heads together. If I had somebody like, hey, you know what, Pat, hold on a second, let's talk about this for a second. I probably would have avoided that $75,000 mistake,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
so
But
go in
the
there with a
beauty
battle
of
buddy.
this, yeah, the beauty of this, like you said, is tuition. You either win or you learn. We
That's right.
don't lose in this game,
That's right.
right? You only lose if you quit. And I don't know about
No,
you, but I'm not quitting anytime
no,
soon.
no.
So,
It's too
like,
much fun to
and
quit.
yeah, well, and the thing
Yeah,
is, I learned so much more on the losses, right, than I do on the wins. Like, yeah,
yeah.
does it feel great to make high five figures, six figures on a deal? Of course. It's amazing. Like I
That
remember
sounds
that
dope to
first
me.
big check I got, like that
Yeah,
rush that I got from getting that was insane.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like the lessons that I learned on a 100K loss that we took earlier this year, like I learned a heck of a lot more on that one than I did on the big win, right? Because we ultimately we just got lucky on that house.
Yeah.
It was the perfect time in the market. We were able to get it done for a good price. Yada yada yada. I do the exact same thing on this other house, but a contractor takes me for a ride. Bad partnership who refuses to bring any money to the table at the end of it. Like everything goes south, right?
Yeah.
But now I know moving forward for that not to happen to me again. Similar to your contractor situation, right? Like we have those our our senses up, right? We're heightened to those situations because we've been through that. We've still have those battle scars.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. I love
Mm.
it. Well, cool, man. So obviously you want to continue to scale up. I love this model so much that you're talking about, this transitional housing. Like, what are you guys looking for specifically to do that? Are you guys doing all the acquisitions yourself? Are you guys working with wholesalers or agents? Like, if somebody's watching this and maybe they're marketing in New Jersey and they want to send you a deal or something, like, what does that look like on your team? Are you guys doing all of the acquisitions or are you working with other wholesalers and
So I don't have the bandwidth for on the acquisition side, honestly.
yeah,
Because we're focused on the operations in the day to day, and just getting into the property,
sure.
and getting it furnished and everything else. So that's our main focus.
Hmm.
So the acquisition side, we will like offload that to like wholesalers, realtors, whoever could bring us the deal, preferably creatively,
Yeah,
but that's a different podcast regarding the market, New Jersey market, and trying to permeate creativity into the real estate space. We're
yeah,
trying.
sure.
We actually have a meetup this Sunday. In Newark. We're going to be talking about some creative deals. We got some lenders, we got some title companies, got some lawyers.
Love it.
That are comfortable with creative and I'm willing to do deals. So we are slowly but surely kind of chipping away at this huge elephant here,
Yeah.
Um, and so, but yeah, I'll take creative deals if they come. I'll scoop them up, in a hot second,
Hmm.
but mostly buying, traditionally, because that's what we have to do. We're just playing the game,
Sure.
because I have a not so much a demand problem, but the supply problem. Meaning because the demand is there.
Oh
I
yeah.
have this at any given time. There's about 60 to 75 folks that need to be housed. But
Yeah.
and the city's trying to offload them because it's a saving grace for the city because to the amount of money to like feed them and house them and everything else, and the people, the overhead for people to keep them and maintain the shelters and everything else
Sure.
is a lot, for them.
Yeah.
So if they could offload it to us, it's like fractions of what they're paying. So
Yeah.
they are
It's
hungry
in
for
their
this.
best interest, yeah, to send them to you. Yeah,
So it's a supply problem. So like for
totally.
us.
Yeah,
So, which is a good place to be in, honestly.
sure.
So we can be able to kind of pick and choose, like, oh, you know what, this is not going to work for our model. The rooms are not big enough. We
Hmm.
want to make sure we put maybe a double bed here and a single bed here,
Yeah.
things like that. So we get to be a little bit choosy.
Hmm.
Um, so it's nice. But yeah, if anybody has any deals like in the Newark area, that'd be great. Um, we haven't ventured off into the Camdens and Trentons yet. We are looking to do that soon.
Okay.
We're just trying to kind of like get our foothold here first, and then
Yeah,
move it.
sure.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. Send them over. My Instagram is Patrick Charles REI. PATRICKCHARLESREI, and that's also my handle for YouTube as well. And they could also DM me, or just shoot me a text, 516-428-1219. So there's a lot of ways they can get a hold of me. Yeah, so absolutely.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. I got one more question for you, and then I'm gonna let you go. So
Yeah.
we've talked about mentorships. We've talked about kind of your pivot from the medical realm into these transitional homes. But if you could go back in time, if you could have a conversation with yourself right when you're getting started, or talking to somebody that maybe this is the first time that they've watched a podcast on real estate investing, they're so pumped up, they want to go get in there. What is one piece of advice that you would leave for a brand new person to get into this game?
We kind of touched up on the battle buddy,
Hmm.
but like someone who's brand new that is getting into this game. What I would do is do not use the book as a crutch.
Mm,
Well, I think, and I'm guilty of this. So I'm speaking to my older self, like
yeah.
5 years ago, that bought every single Bigger Pockets book.
Yeah.
And do not use the fact that you want to be more educated in the space, and before you make a jump to like keep you from taking action.
Yes.
Because folks like yourself, like you, Adam, and other folks that are doing the thing, you already failed 20 times before I even like decided to finish the 80 page, 200 page book,
Right. Yeah.
and you learn exponentially more things because of that than I
Yeah.
did from reading the book.
Sure.
So, you know, I I don't want you I don't want to hear from a newbie that they're waiting to watch the videos, they're waiting to read the book before they go ahead and partner up and get a better buddy.
Yeah.
If that's your approach, then you're doing it wrong, and
Yeah.
you need to like put the book down, turn off the video, and pick up the phone or get a buddy and just
Yeah.
and do the thing.
Do the thing, man. Yeah, that's huge. It's such a trap. Like I was the exact same way. Every podcast, every video I could watch, every book, I want to know everything about everything about everything. But then when I look at my phone sitting on my desk, it weighs 600 pounds. And it's like, how how are you going to talk or get these leads and these opportunities and buy these houses if you don't talk to people?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like you have to figure
yeah,
that out. And that was the biggest thing for me because like I was back 3, 4 years ago when I started, like I was a very introverted person. Not that where I'm going to avoid talking to you, like if we're in the same room, but I'm never going to be the one to go and engage in the conversation.
yeah.
So now I'm going out of my way to call strangers to buy their most expensive asset that they own. Like, what? Like, it's just a complete mindset shift, right? And it's like, but unless you take the action, you're never going to learn and
Yeah.
you're never going to change your circumstances. And so that's huge. Yes, I love everything you just said. You got to take the action. Like, you're going to learn so much more by falling on your face than you are by reading the book cover to cover and then never doing anything about it. So
Yes,
good.
love it.
So good.
Yes, 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 yes.
Well, Patrick, I've loved our conversation, learning a little bit more about
Yeah.
your strategy and the stuff that
Yeah.
you're chasing. Super proud to call you a friend and excited to see what you're going to do moving forward.
I appreciate
Um,
you.
appreciate your time, brother. And so that's all I got for this episode, guys. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until
Hmm.
the next episode, I'll catch you later. Peace.
Later, guys.